You're probably wondering why I bought this piece of furniture. Well, I found it at my local restore and it was only $12.55 and they don't charge tax. So I thought I can have some fun with this. But it did sit on my back porch for quite a while and got rather dusty. And when I went to pick it up, I broke it. But in this video, I'm going to show you how I take this broken, dirty bar cart and turn it into something really special. This is one makeover I hope you're going to love, but you might hate. So I can't wait to see in the comments whether you love it or hate it. First things first, I had to clean it up. I showed you it had gotten really dusty and dirty. Then I wanted to take a look at the bottom. And this is why I never pick up a piece of furniture without gloves or looking at the bottom first. Yeah, hopefully they were just spider webs, but I wasn't going to take any chances. This base was pretty beat up, so I decided to take it off and see if I could build a new one. But first, I had to get rid of those spider homes. So I grabbed my leaf blower and blew them away. Then I found the Allen wrench that would fit. The base was held on just by 4 screws. Now, this is not an expensive piece of furniture. This is just a manufactured piece, which is why I'm going to have some fun with paint and stencils. And hopefully that doesn't cause you to turn off the video right now. I'm going to show you the process. You can always skip forward if you want to see the end results. I'll put a menu and timestamps in the first comment so you can go to the part that you love. So first, let's get all those screws off of there. I'm doing a little time lapse here so we don't have to watch the boring stuff. It did take me a while to get them all off. I'm not very good with Allen wrenches. And I made sure to put all of the screws in the drawer. I'm using the drawer for the project as my collection bin. And here we go. It just comes right off just like that. It's one piece. But I think I can actually easily remove these side pieces and redo them and maintain the bottom of it, as well as those 4 blocks that I think will be absolutely perfect for adding some casters. Since I'd already taken the bottom off, I decided I was just going to go ahead and deconstruct the entire piece. So I grabbed my screwdriver and I'm taking the doors off. I'm going to remove the hinges, and this will give me the opportunity to get everything nice and clean and paint it. Let's get both those doors off. You can hear the blower from my husband working in the backyard. Took out the adjustable shelf screws that were inside. And now I'm going to remove the other piece of the sliding top. There were just 4 little brackets holding it in place, so I was able to take it off pretty easily. And there we go. Not bad. I think it has potential. So after I cleaned it real well and dried it off, I decided to go ahead and just spray it with shellac. I'm doing this outside and I am wearing my respirator. What this is going to do is it's going to seal the finish, and it's going to give me a base that I can go ahead and paint over without having to use a primer or stripping it down. I plan to go a little bit darker with this one, so I don't need to worry about it. I took the doors inside and I'm going to clean them with simple green. Please note that if you buy the concentrated simple green, you want to make sure and water it down because it is very concentrated and you don't want to burn your hands or hurt yourself. So once I got my bottle refilled, I went ahead and gave it a really good cleaning. And I happen to like this kind of minty smell, so I don't mind using it inside the house. I cleaned all sides of the doors, and now I'm applying Bonding Boss by Dixie Belle. This is a product that's going to do the same thing that the shellac did to the outside of the bar cart, but since this has a very low odor and it's water-based, I'm using it inside my house. It gives it a nice smooth finish that I can then go and paint over. Now I had to fix the piece that I broke. Now you can see this is really cheap materials. This is not a nice piece of furniture, which is why I am not too worried about the fact that I am going to paint and stencil it. So what I did is I used my wood glue. I like Tite Bond to put the piece on that I had broken off. And then I held it in place with clamps. I had a hard time getting this clamp on, so I went with an older one that was just a little bit more flexible. At first I put it in the middle, but what that did is it caused the middle to be very tight, but the two edges of the broken piece weren't making really perfect contact. So I'm going to go ahead and scoot the clamp over so that it's clipped on the edge, and then I'm going to grab that orange one that I struggled with, and I'm going to get it in place on the opposite side. This way, once it's dried, it'll be nice and tight in place, and hopefully when it's finished, you won't even notice. Then I grabbed my pin nailer just to go ahead and secure a few areas that hadn't come loose but were kind of lifting up just a little bit. I absolutely love this pin nailer by Ryobi. It is one of my favorite tools, and I find myself using it a lot on my different flips. Okay, now we gotta get this price sticker off. Now, give me a like if you hate trying to remove thrift store stickers. The ones from Habitat Restore aren't that bad. I think this one was just sitting outside and dried up a little bit, but I think the ones from Goodwill are the absolute worst. One trick that I should have done is grabbing my blow dryer. If you grab a blow dryer and blow it on there for a few seconds, it'll kind of loosen up the adhesive, so it's pretty easy to remove. What I did here is I just sprayed it with simple green, let it sit for a minute, and then since I'm in my kitchen, I just grabbed a butter knife and kind of scraped it off with the butter knife. Probably not the most efficient, but it got the job done. There we go. We'll just give it another good cleaning. Clean out the entire piece. Now I'm going to move out to my garage, and on the back side of it, behind the wine section, there was this piece of board that goes in between the two sides. And so I'm going to practice with it as my first piece. I decided to go ahead and use this black gel stain rather than using paint. I like the fact that the gel stain allows the wood grain to show through, or fake wood grain in this case, and also just a tiny hint of color. Now I apply the gel stain with a sponge applicator, which actually puts it on and removes it at the same time. So it allows me to get a nice thin coat. I am going to put a link to my Amazon storefront in the comments so that you could go and purchase any of the supplies that you see me using in this video for this transformation. I've used this gel stain now for several products or projects, and it's quickly becoming one of my favorite products. So just keep putting it on, overlapping any areas. If it starts to get dry, just add a little bit more gel stain. And I often get asked, well, don't I go back over it and remove it with a cloth? In this case, it is so hot and dry in my garage, and the sponge applicator is laying it down and picking it up at the same time. There really isn't a lot of excess gel stain. But I really like the color and the look that it's giving. See, I did go ahead and go over it with a paper towel, and as you'll see, it picks up very little of the product. So I did paint the top of it gold, and I thought I had hit record, but apparently I didn't, so I missed that part, sorry. But here I am just adding the gel stain to the body of the piece. I'm doing it in fast forward because you don't need to watch all of that. All right, so now I've got the two doors that go on the front of the bar cart, and I have decided to use some plant-inspired stencils. I'm having a hard time getting some of my Dixie Belle paint to open. I've heard that if you put wax paper over the top of it before you put the lid on, that it really helps get it open. So what I'm going to do is I've grabbed two colors of green that I have, and I'm going to kind of mix them because I think one's a little bit too bright, one's a little bit too dark, so hopefully together they'll give me a nice kind of natural plant colored paint. I'm using those little plastic knives. Now, if you eat takeout and you get those little plastic packets that typically have a fork, a spoon, and a knife, I don't know about you guys, but I hardly ever use the knives. So what I've started doing is I just toss them in a drawer, and then I have them for my paint projects. They're great for stirring or getting out small amounts of paint, especially from small containers like this. So now I'm using a sponge that I picked up at the craft store. I got it just a little bit damp, and then I'm dipping it in the paint and applying it over my stencil right on top of that Dixie Belle product that I put down, which will help grip and hold the paint onto the doors. Always make sure that you're kind of going straight down so you don't get paint under the edges of the stencil. Gonna do another leaf. My goal here is to try to make it look like there's a bunch of different leaves. I am going with a gold and green theme. And honestly, in my head, it looks really good, but I'm a little bit worried about my execution of this idea and how it's going to look when I'm done. So same thing, I'm going to use the same color for this one. This is just kind of my base coat. I will come in and add some different greens and golds to give it some depth and texture and dimension. And then we'll do one more on this door using green. This time I want to go just kind of a little bit lighter green, so I'm just using the little bit of paint that's in the lid. I tend not to dip my brushes or sponges directly into the containers because I don't want to contaminate my paint for future projects. All right, we set that one aside. Now I'm going to the other door and I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm not necessarily going to do the same pattern. I don't want them to be mirror images of each other. I just want them to kind of be similar in size and shape. Now we'll go back to the first one. And now I'm going to start adding in some leaves of different sizes. And I'm using this kind of tan color that I have. I'm going to go over it at some point with gold, but I'm starting with the base of this tan paint. All the colors will be in the description. Now this is where it gets a little tricky because I want the leaves to look layered. So this leaf is going to appear that it is on top of the green monstera leaf that was below. And I'm just dabbing on the paint. And this stencil is tricky because it has a lot of little pieces that move. And unfortunately, I did have a lot of bleeding with the paint. So what I've done, this is a little trick, make sure you remember this, is I went and grabbed a couple toothpicks. And I'm just going to use the toothpicks while the paint is still soft to go in and gently scrape away the paint from the areas that it bled underneath the stencil. This is much easier than trying to use any type of a paint remover, which can run and smear. And I found toothpicks do an absolute great job at this. And you can see now how you're starting to get a little bit more separation and the appearance of leaves versus one big solid leaf. Oh, there's my son getting some brownies. Yep, just clean up the other side now. We're almost done with this leaf. You have to have a lot of patience for stencils, and you actually cannot be a perfectionist because they're never going to turn out perfect. So you have to be able to live with those little slight imperfections. All right, now I'm just kind of filling in where the paint was a little bit thin, adding a little bit more color to it, being real careful not to go and add paint where I just removed it. Now we're going to do a big leaf. This gets a little tricky because once again, I want the leaves to appear that they are layered. So in some cases, this one is going over the other leaves, so it's a little bit easier. But in a second here, I'll show you one that goes under a leaf and how that's a little tricky. I'm going to use a nice big large one here to fill in the space. And I grabbed a brush because this one is going to appear that it is under that green monstera leaf. So I am going around the Monstera leaf with my brush first and in any cracks where the leaf would show through the other. And then once I get that area in place, then I can grab my sponge and do the larger areas. And I am in no way an expert at this. I just think it's fun to give it a try and see how it turns out. Do a little bit of cleanup. All right, there we go. Now what I've done is I've grabbed my paintbrush and some gold paint, and now I'm going to start adding to the leaves, giving them a little bit of design, adding in the stems, doing some texture on the leaves, and just kind of playing with it until I think it looks good. And don't be scared to try something like this, because worst case scenario, I could always go in with a little bit of a paint remover, remove it all and start over, or do something totally different. I'm going to just hand paint some leaves down here at the bottom to fill in this blank space. Kind of giving it a little bit of a bend there. I don't know what kind of plant this would be, but I think it looks okay. Then I'm going to add some color to it to give it its own look. Coming in with the gold again to add the central stem to this cool little feathery looking leaf. That gold really helps bring it to life. I think it makes a huge difference. All right, now I'm going to add my casters to the bottom. I ordered these 4 casters off of Amazon, and they fit perfectly on the pieces of wood that were already on the bar cart. And then I went to Lowe's or Home Depot, I can't remember which one, found this kind of cute little trim that has a leafy pattern, and cut the pieces to size. And now I'm replacing those pieces of wood that I took off and threw away because they were badly damaged. And I'm just using my nail gun to put this in place nice and tight. Once I had it in place, I added a little bit of wood on the inside just to give it a little extra support there. And now I'm going to go in and use my gel stain to make that new base trim match. I'm using the foam brush again, and I'm going to have to kind of dab it to get it into the textured design of the wood. I probably could have done something really cute with some gold to kind of keep the design showing a little bit more, but I think I've got enough going on already with this piece. You can see one of my other projects in the background there. It's a really cute little china cabinet that I made over. Check out that video. Thanks again to all of my followers. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe and let me know what you think. Now, once I put the doors back on, I felt like my leaves were not quite big enough. They just didn't feel quite right. So I grabbed a really large leaf stencil, and I'm going to go in and add 1 big leaf to each side. And I want this to appear like it is in the very background. So I'm having to use my brush to carefully go in and fill the leaf in around the existing one that will be in the foreground. You can also see that I've added a little bit of gold and kind of a taupe color to my green leaves just to give them a little bit more of a realistic look. Yeah, this is pretty tedious having to paint around this leaf. Ideally, I would have put the gold leaf down first and then put the green leaf on top, and it would have been a lot easier, but I didn't quite have the ratio and the size correct when I did my first stencils. That's the other fun part of when I'm really creative with a piece is I'll have an idea in my mind. I usually don't sketch it out. I just kind of start working on it. And sometimes I end up where I thought I would. Other times I end up somewhere totally different. Once I lifted up the stencil, I had to go in and do just a little bit of free painting to get the leaf shaped just like I wanted it. But I think this is definitely helping in terms of filling that empty space a little bit more and making the stenciled part proportionate to the overall size of the piece of furniture. You can also see that when I replaced the wine rack, I painted just the front of it with the gold paint to accent it. Then I found these cute little handles to replace the old silver ones that were there. This way I didn't have to drill new holes. I could just go ahead and use the existing holes. If I can get the screw to catch, there we go. Tighten it real good so it doesn't become loose or wobbly. All right, and here's where we started. Here's a shot of the drawer and the wine section. You see I did paint the inside gold. Forgot to film that. But here's what it looks like. So there's a lot of contrast between the black gel stain and the gold. I'm not sure I really love it. I added some cute paper to the drawer. And I didn't paint the insides of the cabinets. I still might go back and do that. Let me know in the comments if you think I should. But what do you think? Would you put this in your house? Would you use it maybe outdoors on your patio for a party? I did paint one of the panels on the back side of it, so it is completed and finished on all sides for a 360-degree pattern. So I'm curious to hear what you think. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on my next furniture flip.